What's going on, guys? CrazyBeatsMan21 here. Today we got a little bit of a commentary kind of video talking about Resident Evil 3's remake, what's been going on with it, Project Residence. There's a little bit of confusion over it, as for some reason the Project Resistance beta is not available on PS4 and PC, and it's only working on Xbox. So what the hell is going on right now? Now, for one thing, this is going to be kind of a concern video. There's a cautionary video of why you guys should kind of be a little bit worried about Resident Evil 3 and Project Resistance. Now, let's just talk about Project Resistance for one thing, because this is the thing that's mostly been going on in the news. So, what the hell's going on with it? Well, as I just said, the biggest thing is that the open beta currently going on is currently not working on PS4 or PC, only working on the Xbox version. And a lot of people are kind of pissed off about it, rightfully so. For some reason, they did a closed beta for the Resident Evil Ambassadors a few months back, and that worked crystal clear. So, what exactly happens now that it's not working? Yeah, so that's not the only concern, though, with this game, though. It's already been confirmed the game's gonna also have loot boxes. Originally, as far as it's been able to be told, the game was also going to be a standalone game, but now it's being bundled with Resident Evil 3, which isn't exactly a good sign, because we all know what happened last time Capcom tried to make a multiplayer game. Yeah, remember Umbrella Corps? Yeah, remember how much people loved it right off the bat? Now see, Umbrella Corps is kind of different. People kind of just hated that right off the bat, but this is kind of different though. See, right off the bat here, people are kind of just not necessarily hateful towards it, more or less just, I think I'm gonna pass on this one. That was the general reaction, so Capcom is probably thinking, well, hell, we spend money on this thing, now we gotta fucking package it with RE3 just so people play it, and throw some microtransactions in it so we make our money back. At least that's my perspective on the whole ordeal. But now let's get to the actual Resident Evil 3 remake. We already can see Project Residence is kind of, a bit falling apart. So who knows? Maybe the main the main attraction, Resident Evil 3 remake. Maybe that will live up to expectations. Maybe that'll kind of soften the blow for the Project Residence whole ordeal. Well, I'm gonna be honest. This is from my perspective. I've played the demo. I've seen a lot of the gameplay. Now, in a lot of aspects, it looks really good. For one thing, one of my complaints that I had with the Resident Evil 2 remake, if you guys want to see my full video on that, was that the street sections in the game were very poorly made. If you noticed, a lot of the environments were very open, they didn't have much detail, there's a lot of negative space. Much negative space everywhere, the environments just didn't look very polished or finished. The streets in Resident Evil 3, however, do look very polished, and there is a lot of detail done, so props where it's done. The dodge mechanic is looking very good. That was one thing in the original people weren't too keen about, because it more felt like a random occurrence rather than something the player actually had control over. So this is another great thing that they've been doing. But when it comes to actual gameplay, Nemesis can do a few new tricks, but he goes down just as easily as Mr. X does, if not even easier. It just takes one grenade to get him down. But then on top of this, we also have the downgraded gore physics, and I said in my Resident Evil 2 video, one of the things I liked about the Resident Evil 2 remake, one of the very few things I did like were the gore physics. It was incredibly groundbreaking. It was some of the best gore physics we've seen in games in a really long time. And with the Resident Evil 3 remake, they have exponentially downgraded the gore. As you can see, you can no longer knife enemies apart, you can no longer shoot enemies apart. There's critical headshots and stuff like that, but I've only gotten one critical headshot out of like the dozen times I've played the demo already. And getting a headshot with the shotgun is almost impossible. I mean, like I said, well, it's not impossible, it's just more or less like the same critical damage as the pistol, which, I mean, it's a shotgun. I mean, come on. But I think by far the biggest problem the game is suffering, though, from right now, is the lack of replayability the game is going to suffer from. Now, let me explain. For one thing, the original Resident Evil 3, unlike Resident Evil 2, which had the B scenarios, which was where the replayability in Resident Evil 2 was, Resident Evil 3 was like, okay, cool, They threw in the Mercenaries mode, which is how you unlocked bonus weapons and infinite ammo. And then they also had the choices that you could make, so you could choose whether or not you wanted to fight or flee Nemesis. And this also impacted certain paths you could take to explore different areas. So it's like, oh, maybe I'll replay the game so I can choose a different path next time and see a different area, explore a different area, see if it plays out any differently. But Resident Evil 3, the remake, we've already seen that it's been confirmed Mercenaries is gone and the choices are both gone. And there's a lot of people still willing to throw their money at Capcom for a game we all know is only going to take about, let's be realistic here, for veterans of the series, it's probably going to take 5, maybe 8 hours, and that's being kind of generous with how long it's going to take to beat, because that's the average Resident Evil time, is 5 to 8 hours, you know. Maybe a little over 10 for someone that's not familiar with the series. But that's the problem with Resident Evil, is that, you know, if there's no bonus things to do in the game becomes pretty stale pretty quickly, which is my problem with the Resident Evil 2 remake. Resident Evil games are short games, and they're great at being short games, because usually the amount of replayability that the games have, usually there's incentive to replay the game despite the fact that it's so short. They're short but fun, and like almost like kind of arcadey in a certain way. You know, speedrunning's encouraged to unlock bonus weapons, to have more fun with the game. So without all the bonus modes though, you know, we saw this problem in Resident Evil 7. People got bored of the game really quick because there just wasn't much to do once you finished the main game. And I think it's going to affect Resident Evil 3 in the same way. I think it's going to be a one and done kind of deal. Resident Evil 2 kind of saved it, where, you know, you kind of had the B scenarios, but they really weren't all that much different. People really weren't that much motivated to play them because there weren't even really that much differences. Hit the microphone. There weren't that much differences with the other scenarios. So my fear is that Resident Evil 3 is just going to play out the same way, where people are just going to get bored with it quick. And the problem is, though, is that, you know, with Project Residence was people's excuses and their scapegoat. You know, that was their one savior thing. Like, oh, well, who cares about Mercenaries being removed? I don't care that Mercenaries is being removed because we have Project Residence now. But Project Residence is not looking too good from a development perspective. It's got a lot of problems, and granted, you know, it hasn't even been launched yet, but, you know, it's not looking too good. It's not looking too good. And I think there's a lot of cause for concern for the Resident Evil 3 remake because of that. So, you know, I'm not going to pretend I'm not going to buy it. I'm probably going to wait for a price drop on it, or I don't know, with this Corona shit, we don't really know what's going to happen now, do we? With the releases. Some people already got the game, some people didn't get the game already. You know, there's certain countries that released it early, I guess. Apparently that's like a thing going around, but I don't know, man. I'm not saying don't buy the game, I'm just saying, like, you know, you gotta keep an open mind about, you know, the whole thing. Like, you know, we can't just keep blindly praising Capcom for, you know, producing subpar games. Like, I mean, this is going to sound like a controversial opinion to say, but we have to look at the facts. Capcom has released 3 Resident Evil games. Not 1, not 2, but 3 full Resident Evil games in about a year, and not even a year and a half. It's been like a year and 3 months? And people are just expecting these games to be top quality, and that's not really what's happening. Resident Evil 2, we saw the B scenarios were extremely watered down. They were the same thing as the regular scenarios. They didn't really offer anything new. They cut extreme battle mode from the game. Half the game just, I mean, not necessarily half the game, I should say just more the street sections, you know, the transitional areas just looked borderline unfinished in certain parts. Now with Resident Evil 3, we don't have Mercenaries, and we don't have we don't have the decisions anymore in the story, because, you know, giving the player choice, what happened to that old thing? That's an old fad. Nobody wants that anymore. And for what reason? Just so they could push out 3 games in a year and maximize profit. So, I don't know. I have a problem with that. I just don't think that's good, because the remakes of 2 and 3 are very good games. Don't get me wrong. Like, this has been fairly negative so far, but they are good games. They're very good looking games. They control very good. The controls are super tight. I mean, I personally prefer the fixed cameras, but they are very good controlling games. I have fun playing the games. Like I've said before in my Resident Evil 2 video, I platinumed the Resident Evil 2 remake. I speedrun the Resident Evil 2 remake. They're fun games. But at the end of the day, though, I mean, what else is there really to do? You know? It's just, it's just that thought in my mind, I can't help but think about the possibility if Capcom just pushed the release dates back or something, you know what I mean? Or just tried to space these releases out more, rather than just, oh, let's just throw everything out there all at once, and then hopefully that'll be good, but that's not what's happening. Alright, so, like I said, just proceed with caution, though. That's all I'm saying. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave your thoughts in the comments. What do you think is going on with this? Are you guys excited? You guys got your concerns? Yeah, that's pretty much it. I make Resident Evil content on a somewhat weekly basis. I try to get videos out as much as I can. So if this is your kind of thing, please leave a subscription, leave a like, or maybe it's not your thing, then oh well, thanks for at least checking the video out. This is just a message for my subscribers. There's a lot of shit going on with my current editing situation, so I bought a bunch of new equipment. I got a lot of videos in the works, but just ran into a few little problems with a lot of the shit. So I'll give a proper update video at some point, but I just figured I'd get this video out real quick. So yeah, thanks for bearing with me. Have a good one, guys. Thanks for watching.